It's just so convenient, isn't it? You need, you click, you buy, it arrives.
I was close to tears at that point. I was cold, I was hungry, I needed the bathroom.
And it arrives so quickly, which when so many shops are closed, when you don't want or you can't leave your house, seems a deliverance in every sense of the word.
And as disgusting as it sounds, I just had to get a cup or get my shiwi in a bottle and then go in the back of the van.
Their drivers are telling them they need to listen to their drivers on this, and they've got to stop ignoring the data.
And it's so cheap. You don't even feel like you're paying for it, but someone is. It's the men and women bringing it to your door. Why is it that Amazon drivers always seem to be in such a rush to deliver what you want to your front door? Well, the answer is that they're in a race against time. We've spoken to several current and former Amazon drivers who've told us that the number of deliveries that they're being asked to make on a daily basis over the course of the pandemic has increased significantly, and yet they've not been given the appropriate time to compensate. As a result, they say they are under considerable mental and physical pressure and are engaging in practices which are sometimes unsafe and even potentially illegal, putting themselves and the public at risk. For reasons you'll understand, some of those who agreed to speak to us on camera did so on condition of anonymity. Amazon is a company which is both ubiquitous and mysterious. In many ways, we know little about it. We don't even know how many drivers deliver its parcels. But we suppose it's in the thousands, perhaps tens of thousands. John, we'll call him John, is among them.
When I first started delivering parcels, it was 120, 130 drops, that's about 180 parcels a day. When the pandemic started, they started putting on more workload, to the extent that now where it's 320 parcels and nearly 200 drops a day that drivers doing, it's physically impossible sometimes.
And are you given any extra pay for that, any extra time to do that?
Only during the peak periods, which is 6 weeks prior to Christmas, and that's it.
John has delivered for Amazon for nearly 2 years. As stressful as it is, in the main, he continues to enjoy it. But then there are those who deliver for a shorter time. For instance, two people we're calling Simon and Gemma. Both lost their jobs as a result of the pandemic and found work as Amazon delivery drivers.
It was a no-brainer for me, really. I was, as I said, looking forward to it. Really looking forward to driving, delivering and getting home and being with the family.
So you had 2 days training in a classroom. It was just going about safety of driving. They were very big on safe driving.
I was totally unexpected to experience what I did based on what the training told me. I'm fully aware of road safety. You couldn't adhere to those rules based on what we had to do.
You've got 15 minutes to load your van. And then there's some days, a lot of us couldn't even fit what we had to get in the van. So we were just trying to find other drivers to take the rest of the parcels. And obviously that's stressing them.
And at that point, I texted the ops manager, who then met me briefly for about a minute to run through the app, provide me with my boxes and tell me to go. But it was at that point I realised my first drop was 38 miles away.
As soon as the driver is in the van, it's the beginning of what can be a grueling experience. If you think Amazon knows a lot about you, it is nothing to what it knows about its drivers. Every moment, every second tracked, monitored, assessed by its in-vehicle app.
They monitor you through the app so they can see how fast you're going, how many parcels you've delivered. They just work everything out. You have a time in the morning when you're at the depot and how quickly you've got to load your van. They monitor you on that. They monitor you on times that you scan on, scan off jobs. So everything's being monitored and the workload's getting higher and it's getting harder and harder and harder to fulfill those routes in 9 hours.
You become anxious immediately. You get a list of all the drivers and where they are behind or whether they're ahead, or so you know if it's you behind, you'll see straight away. You get a visual explanation that you're behind, and that puts you at an anxious situation quite badly.
So if you're not meeting your target, you get a message off your manager or whatever saying, oh, you're 7 parcels behind, what's going on?
On those messages, it tells you how many drops you've got to do. So, you know, there was ones with 185, 225 drops, not packages, drops. So I think mine was 125 on my first day.
Going down country lanes to deliver parcels when Amazon don't even know how bad these lanes are. It might take you 15 minutes to deliver one parcel just because of how bad a country lane is.
But the app doesn't take account for that.
Not a chance, no.
just constantly, it's like, oh, speed up, please, speed up, try your best, get as many as you can done. And then obviously you're trying to speed up, you're driving dangerously, you can't deliver how Amazon want you to deliver.
So every time you hear a ting, you're anxious. You become more worried that you're not going to be able to reach your target.
The law says that the maximum a van driver can drive for is 10 hours. Amazon shifts are 9 hours. That's why it's a race against the clock. Within that, Amazon says there's supposed to be a 30-minute lunch break, but the drivers we've spoken to say that that is a remote prospect, as are even more basic requirements.
Toilet breaks weren't a thing. Because the van was so packed, I'd have to wait till I emptied 3 totes just so I had a bit of room. And as disgusting as it sounds, I just had to get a cup or get my shiwi in a bottle and then go in the back of the van.
Okay, admit it. We've all been addicted to Amazon during this entire pandemic.
In America, just this week, this issue has hit the headlines, again with drivers alleging so little time to make their deliveries that they had to urinate into bottles. Amazon have denied that this happens.
Amazon responded and said, you don't believe that peeing in bottles thing is true.
But there are even more serious concerns about safety.
Every Amazon driver that I've known, they all speed. We all park in places where you're not supposed to, double yellows on busy roads. So especially say if you've got a house on a country lane and there's no parking near there, you just have to set up on the side of the road, run across, do your drop. And yeah, it's not safe. You just got to put your hazards on and hope for the best.
Amazon told us they have a 24-hour hotline drivers can phone if they have problems. But here's the rub. They're not even technically employed by Amazon. They're self-employed, contracted through a panoply of logistics companies. And yet,
everything is controlled by Amazon. The route is set by Amazon, the workload is set by Amazon, the mileage is set by Amazon. So basically the logistics firm, it's basically just a middleman, really.
but say you don't get it done. I mean, does Amazon re-employ you? What happens with your logistics firm?
Your ratings get reduced, your ratings go down. If you don't fulfill some parcels because of time constraints or the customer's not in, then I think they base your ratings on 8 or 9 different ratings, because if you don't deliver parcels, your ratings come down. So you're monitored all the time on every aspect of what you do.
And what happens then if your ratings continue to fall? Do they
The logistics firm will just get rid of you.
lay you off?
Yep.
And that's quite easy to do.
Oh, it happens all the time. The turnover of staff is phenomenal.
Drivers attend an Amazon training day. They usually exclusively deliver for Amazon, and it is an Amazon app which tracks and monitors them in their vehicles. And yet remember, because they're self-employed, they don't have company benefits, they don't get sick pay, they don't get holiday pay, and there is little recourse should the company decide that their services are no longer required.
The Supreme Court unanimously dismisses Uber's appeal.
This isn't an issue about Amazon alone. All manner of gig economy companies are grappling with an evolving legal situation governing those they employ in one way or another. But Amazon is by far the biggest concerned, and a petition organised by Change demanding that the number of deliveries is reduced has attracted nearly 80,000 signatures, at least some of whom are verified Amazon drivers. Its organiser says reform is long overdue and that the company doesn't want to know what's really happening.
I think genuinely they're currently not gathering it because they don't want to know the answer. They know how dangerous this is. Their drivers are telling them. They need to listen to their drivers on this. They've got to stop ignoring the data. It's a really simple change for them to make to take those targets back to a safe level.
As you'll see, we put a lot of energy into our logistics.
Remember, Amazon is a company whose UK sales increased by 51% in 2020, a revenue of £20 billion. It has been the beneficiary of a pandemic which has accelerated our move to the online economy. And yet, at once, it feels as if we've also gone backwards to a time when the rules about what can legitimately be expected by a company of its workers were much less rigid.
Oh my gosh, Amazon. I've tried a position at the warehouse with Amazon, and
Politicians, and perhaps the rest of us, might need to ask ourselves if that's the future we want, if that convenience is worth the price.